What's up, everybody? We've done one episode of Crush City Territory, and of course, our second episode is an emergency pod. I'm Chandler Rome, joined with Tyler Stafford, reacting to the somewhat expected news that Kyle Tucker has been traded to the Chicago Cubs for a three-player package that includes Isak Paredes, Hayden Wesneski, and Cam Smith. Tyler, um, I said it wasn't shocking, but I think anyone, if you would have told anyone maybe 2 weeks ago that Kyle Tucker was not going to be on the Astros in 2025, they would have looked at you with mouth agape and eyebrows wide. But 48 hours in Dallas at the winter meetings really solidified this, and this came together pretty quickly.
Yeah, when I was 18, I decided for my birthday it would be fun to go skydiving. And so I booked a place. I had a bunch of people come with me. We watched the training videos. They walk us through everything. You go up in the air and they, spring the door open and you're about to jump out. So just because you know something is about to happen does not mean that it's not shocking. Kyle Tucker not being in an Astros uniform is shocking. I mean, especially when you look back at that draft class that has Bregman at 2 and Tucker at 5, it feels like an era of the Astros is over. Not having Tucker here, it is legitimately shocking, even if the rumors are there and it does kind of make sense from both sides.
Yeah, and obviously the Cubs were the most aggressive team on him. They're desperate. I mean, they've been under siege, under fire for the last year or so about their spending habits. They gave Craig Counsell the highest salary of any major league manager ever, and they did not give him a roster that is commensurate with that. They got Craig Counsell from Milwaukee, who doesn't spend money, brought him to a place and promised to spend money, and they did not give him that roster. Now they're going to get Kyle Tucker, who is immediately the centerpiece of the Cubs lineup. It may only be a 1 year thing because I don't expect Kyle Tucker to engage in any extension talks with the Cubs. He'd be foolish to, because he's going to go into free agency and make 500, 400, $500 million. But you guys aren't listening to this to hear from the Cubs perspective. You guys are want to hear about the Astros perspective and kind of the way this goes forward. So, as we've said, and as we said on the debut episode, the Astros want to contend in 2025. This is not a signal that they are rebuilding. This is not a signal that they are tearing the team down. But it's pretty clear they have to balance the present of what they want to do in 2025 and the subsequent years after that. They've got a core in place of Altuve and Alvarez and Diaz and Hunter Brown and Brian Abreu and Josh Hader. Like, you can see that there is still a core there of a really good club. But it was getting pretty clear that short of Jim Crane having a $300 million payroll, there really wasn't another logical way to do this to get the replenishment that the farm system needs while wanting to remain competitive. And it should be noted, Tyler, as we talked about, this was not going to be a trade for some 17-year-old lottery tickets that no one has ever heard of. The Astros, in return, got Isak Paredes, who would be my odds-on favorite to be their opening day third baseman in 2025. Hayden Wesneski, he's done a bunch of different things. He's started, he's relieved, he's been a swing man. The numbers are not great, but I think if you've got to trust anyone when it comes to overhauling a pitcher, making a pitcher better, you've got to trust the Astros and their pitching infrastructure with how they've done it. And then Cam Smith is the centerpiece of this deal. Cam Smith automatically becomes the Astros' best prospect, which is a low bar to clear, but nevertheless, he cleared it. 21 years old, first-round pick out of Florida State last year, the sort of high-impact, high-end prospect that this farm system just did not have before.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the trade is about as good as you can write it up on paper for the Astros to be able to fill, a hole immediately at third base. I think this is a pretty clear signal that they've got a backup plan if they don't re-sign Bregman. So you've got a third baseman, but Paredes is also a guy that can play both corners of the infield. So if Cam Smith is ready, he's not going to be blocked by someone at the major league level. You can move him to first. You could DH. Obviously, you've got some flexibility there. And then, Wisniewski is just a major league ready arm that's going to pump out, average innings for you, which is valuable. I mean, we saw what happened when the Astros had to keep running out Montero, and how many games it can cost you to just not have an average guy to go out there. And so, I think this trade makes a lot of sense for the Astros. I'm excited about Cam Smith, man. I watched him a ton last year because Texas A&M baseball was really good, and so I was following a lot of college baseball last year, and Cam Smith was one of the most fun players to follow in college baseball last year. And I think he's going to be really good for a long time.
What happened to Texas A&M's coach?
I think he went to some other school. I'm not sure that it matters at this point. They did finish, second in the College World Series, and that's what I'd like to focus on right now.
Good for them. Good for them. Good for Jim Schlossnagle. Good for oil men all around Austin and Texas. Yeah, I think you couldn't. I don't think there's any fan right now that is like happy about this. Like the Astros just traded their best player. Like let's not beat around the bush here. Um, all due respect to Jose Altuve, all due respect to Yordan Alvarez. Like the Astros just traded their best player, and that is a tough pill for a lot of fans to swallow, especially a fan base that hasn't had to deal with this. I mean, Tyler, you've watched this club longer than I have. What is the last trade that you remember that involved the Astros sending out just an above average big league player to another team?
Yeah, it was right after they kind of gave up in, what was it, 2007, 2008, after the roster got really old, and they traded Hunter Pence, Roy Oswalt, Bradledge, all those guys ended up on the Phillies, and it was demoralizing. Even though you got prospects back or whatever, it hurt a lot worse than this, at least to me, because there was just nobody on the team anymore. I mean, of course, Astros legend Bud Norris, ace starter, getting sent to the Orioles. We all remember where we were when that happened. But yeah, this is a big one for sure.
Yeah, so I mean, you're talking like almost 15 years
Yeah,
since.
I mean, they have not traded away a player that is valuable to them in a long time.
So this is uncharted. This is uncharted territory for Astros fans, especially a fan base that is filled with a lot of people that, quite frankly, started watching this team in 2015, 2016 when they've been good, and all they've known is all in and blockbusters that bring superstars to them, not blockbusters that send superstars away. So, um, but as with any trade, like judging it now is really dumb. Like let's wait, let's give it a couple years, and then we can look back. But that's not how today's day and age works. Everyone wants instant reaction, and everyone wants instant, grading this trade. From my vantage point, I think the Astros did pretty well. I mean, they were never going to get, I think, the Padres gave up five. The Padres got five players in exchange for Juan Soto at the deadline last year, or not at the deadline, before the season last year. And I never thought that the Astros were going to get that big of a package. I mean, we've talked about how close Kyle Tucker is to Juan Soto in comparisons, but he's still not Juan Soto. So to get three players, two of whom, all of these guys too are under control for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Isaac Paredes has 3 more years of club control. Cam Smith's 21 years old and, has gotten up to AA. And then Hayden Wisniewski is not even arbitration eligible yet. So, I mean, they've got 3 guys that are going to be around for a long time and they can kind of impact this team beyond 2025. So I think it's imperative to, as we discuss and analyze this trade, remember, like, there's a good chance that the Cubs have 1 year of Kyle Tucker. And the Astros are now going to have at least 3 seasons of Isaac Paredes, and who knows, maybe 6 to 7 years of Cam Smith if he pans out. But it's all going to depend on kind of how they how they perform. And I don't think we'll be talking about Cam Smith as a member of the 2025 Astros. He probably needs a little more seasoning, but um, as we kind of look at the post Tucker 2025 Astros, obviously we talked about Isaac Paredes will probably play one of the corner spots. If you made me guess right now, he's probably your opening day third baseman. Um, they still need a starter. They still need a reliever. They still need maybe to address first base. And then now without Kyle Tucker, Dana Brown's said all offseason they need a left-handed hitting outfielder. Well, you just traded one of the best left-handed hitting outfielders in baseball. You're going to have to maybe get another one to replace him. How do you view this outfield and this team in kind of a post-Tucker world?
Yeah, you think Soto's available? You think the Mets are listening for offers yet?
Maybe did he? Oh, he passed his physical. So that
Yeah, okay.
the last time the Mets gave a huge deal, the physical failed. So, but he did pass his physical, unfortunately. No, not unfortunately. Good for him. I'm glad he's healthy.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, the outfield's gonna look different. Especially you mentioned Dana Brown too. I feel like all offseason they've been talking about wanting to get Jordan out of the outfield more often than they did last year. And I'm not sure how they managed to swing that now without having real outfielders out there. So yeah, I mean, what are the Astros plans? What are they wanting to do? I can't imagine that they are looking at the roster right now and thinking, all right, it's good to go. They've got to add an outfielder. What do they look for?
I think what we've heard all off season is that they want to get back to patience. They want to get back to not swinging, not chasing so much, not swinging so frequently. And Kyle Tucker was the epitome of a disciplined hitter who didn't chase, rarely struck out, worked long at bats, and that's a big void from their lineup gone. So, and if Alex Bregman doesn't return, he's in that same mold. So, I think the first thing they're going to target is someone that they are aware can take pitches, is patient, is not going to swing out of his shoes at everything because they've got a lot of people in this lineup already like that. I wonder if this. I wonder what this does for Chas McCormick, honestly, because Chas McCormick, this could put Chas McCormick on the trade block because if they see a veteran outfielder on another team that they like, maybe to clear space, maybe Chas McCormick is a guy on the block, or do they look at Chas McCormick and say, we're putting faith in you. We'll give you an everyday role because he can take one of center or left field and lock it down. Um, you know, they're as far as the money goes, I don't know where they're at spending freedom wise. They were $12 million under the first luxury tax threshold when this offseason started. That included Kyle Tucker's arbitration projection. So take that out, and they've got about 30 something $million to play with. So they have a little money to go out and find an experienced outfielder, but they also need a reliever, they need a starter, and they may need help at first base. And Alex Bregman is still kind of lingering out there. So as far as the outfield goes, I wonder, is Jacob Melton ready? Do they want to give Jacob Melton a try and see if he can come and lock down one of those spots? It's wide open, and the only thing they've done to this point is sign or acquire Taylor Trammell from the New York Yankees. I don't think that's going to get it done.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what what the plan is. But you're right. If your goal is to have your team be more patient, um, I would start with Tucker and Bregman. So it's clear that those kind of guys don't grow on trees, and so they're going to have to find a way, to fill in those holes the best that they can. But it's not going to look like Kyle Tucker, and it's not going to look like Alex Bregman if he doesn't come back.
And I wonder, how do you think fans are going to respond to this? I mean, I think right. I think, if they've been reading the coverage, they should have conditioned themselves that this was coming and this was going to happen. But seeing it actually happen and just thinking and reading about it are two different things. And like we talked about, this is fan base that's not used to this, or that hasn't been used to this in 15, 16 years. Like, I mean, they still have a good team. Like, this is not a situation where, I mean, they traded their best player, but the team is still pretty good and it's in a bad division. So they're still primed to contend in 2025. But how do you think, just from your vantage point, how do you think this will be received publicly?
Well, I did some boots on the ground journalism. I've got a couple of Astros group chats fired up. Shout out the Brostros. And so uh, they are not taking it in the same way that I think if the Astros had not started sending this story out that Tucker was available, that here's kind of the reasoning behind what they're looking for. I think they would have been a lot more upset. I think it would have been a lot more shocking. Most of the stuff that I'm seeing, both from people that I know and just online, is like, man, it's going to really stink not having Kyle Tucker out there. He was awesome to watch. But it's not like doom and gloom, at least from what I'm seeing, because I think fans, for the most part, do understand that, you know, Kyle Tucker was going to be gone after a year. The Astros were never going to re-sign him, and when you can get back major league ready talent, it makes it hurt a little bit less when you can start immediately looking at the guys who are going to contribute in his spot.
Yeah, I think this would have been more difficult for them to embrace if the return was younger guys. If the return was guys that were going to go to A ball, if the return
Mm-hmm.
was guys that, all three of them were prospects and not major league ready. Like you can now talk yourself into, oh, Isak Paredes, like the way he pulls the ball, like he's perfect for Minute Maid Park. Like you could talk yourself into, okay, Isak Paredes could hit 25 homers this year, and he's a lot more cost controlled, and like he's here for 3 years, and you can start to talk yourself in. Okay, Hayden Wisniewski, like get him with the Josh Miller, Bill Murphy overhaul system, and maybe the Astros can unlock something with him. And then we've talked about obviously the hype surrounding Cam Smith. So I think this one it gives fans a little bit more hope that this is simply what we've been saying it is. It is just a retool. This is not a tear down to the studs rebuild sort of thing, and it never was going to be that. This team can contend, as Dana Brown has said numerous times. He believes this team can contend without Kyle Tucker. But as long as we're talking about Tucker, I think, it is fitting that we need to give him a tribute for what he is. I mean, you know, Aaron Boone, I thought when Aaron Boone was asked about Jose Ramirez in the ALCS, and he kind of went on that rant about underrated. Like, no, everyone rates him fine. I'm going to kind of do the same thing here with Kyle Tucker. Everyone in the industry knows that Kyle Tucker is a stud, like one of the best players in baseball. Um, the outside world probably doesn't know that because Kyle Tucker is very quiet, very to himself, not flashy. He's low key funny, but you never see it in public settings. He's about as underappreciated a player, a superstar as I think I've ever covered. Just someone that, until about 72 hours ago, to be completely honest with you, I don't think the rest of the baseball world, like fans, understood how good Kyle Tucker is.
Yeah, and it's wild because I mean, obviously the Astros have been at the center of the baseball world for the better part of the last decade, and Kyle Tucker has been right there, but he's never been the guy on the video graphic for Sunday Night Baseball or for the preview of, the ALCS, right? It's always going to be your Bregman, your Altuve, Verlander, Jordan. Those guys are going to be the ones that in a 30-second clip are going to pop. But you're right. I mean, Tucker has been one of the best players in baseball for the past few years, and somehow is underappreciated. I'm excited for him, just from a fan of watching Kyle Tucker play baseball. I'm excited for him to get a year in the spotlight because he's gonna get plenty of attention playing for the Cubs for the next year, and then going into another kind of crazy free agency uh, bid, just like Soto did. And so I'm excited for him. I think the rest of the baseball world is going to realize how much fun he is to watch. And I said it on Twitter, but one of my favorite things to watch about Kyle Tucker is he changes what he does a lot. Like if you watch Kyle Tucker over the course of a couple of weeks, he's gonna have different color batting gloves within the same game. He's gonna take his batting gloves off. He's gonna have a day where he's standing with his right foot at the very front of the batter's box, and then he'll be closed stance, and then he'll come back open stance. He moves his arms around. It's really fun to almost follow along in real time as he makes adjustments. And I know other players do that too, but for whatever reason, it stands out visually when Tucker does it, and it rewards you for watching him every day, because you never know what you're going to see from him. I think we're going to have a really cool moment at some point of him picking a ball up off the ivy and just unleashing some insane throw from right field. And that's just going to look great. Imagine like a day game in the ivy and he just guns a guy out at third. That's going to be great for his career highlight reel. So I'm happy for him.
Yeah, and the thing that I loved about watching him play, and we're talking about him as if he's dead.
Yeah,
We can still watch him play.
he is to me, Chandler. No.
Tune in to WGN. We can watch him play.
Yeah, we get to watch Jim DeShays. It's awesome.
JD,
you should watch more Cubs games.
But I think the thing I appreciated the most about watching him with the Astros was he made it look so easy. Like, I mean, you watch him out there, and it's almost to a point where you ask yourself, like, does this guy care? Because he doesn't show a ton of emotion, but he does everything so smooth. And it's like when he runs, he's gliding. Like, I mean, he's got a weird kind of body type. He's lanky, but he's put a ton of weight on since he came up in 2019. But watching him kind of evolve and come into his own was really, really a treat. I will miss his disgusted bat flips after he got under a pitch or missed a pitch or one, because you never saw a ton of emotion from Kyle Tucker.
Yeah.
But in those couple moments when he would get under a pitch, the just millisecond of him being so mad he just flipped his bat. I will miss that the most about watching Kyle Tucker. Do you have a favorite Kyle Tucker memory that we can leave the people with to maybe have remember them fondly?
Man, I should have had more prepared. That's a good point. For me, and maybe this is just because I was writing about it at the time. For me, it was the resiliency that Tucker showed in his first 2 or 3 years being unequivocally the most unlucky hitter in baseball. He would have expected numbers that were, similar to what he does now, but he would be hitting 230 and, he was screaming line drives directly at people for like 3 straight years. And it must have been so frustrating for him. It was tough to watch as a fan of just like, man, this guy is crushing the ball, but he's just not getting any hits. And you kept thinking, is this going to pan out? Is he going to, going to be able to take this? And then watching it click over the last couple years and feeling almost like a vindication of like, yeah, he's been doing it the whole time. It's just now there's not people standing where he's hitting these. I think that's going to be my lasting memory of him. I know that there's a million plays that people are screaming at us right now. What about you, Chandler?
I remember it was last season. It was 2020, 2024, Anaheim. I think it was a Sunday night baseball game in Anaheim, but he made some ridiculous diving catch in right field to win the game for them. It was in the ninth inning, like ball in the gap, bases loaded. He makes an unbelievable diving catch. And then just as Tucker is, he just gets up and walks off the field. No emotion. And then the other one is when Chas McCormick made his catch in Game 5 of the 2022 World Series.
I remember that. That was cool.
He crashed in good play. He crashed into the wall, and you watch Tucker run over to like make sure he was okay. And so in the clubhouse after the game, like everyone's scrambling for like that anecdote or that note that like they can get that no one. So I went over to Tucker. I was like, Kyle, like when he's on the ground, like you ran over there, what'd you tell him? And just as deadpan as Kyle Tucker can be, just goes, I just looked at him and said, Chas, get up. Just like, and he is just he was a gem. And I'm not going to say he was the most loquacious guy on the team, was certainly not the most quotable guy, but I enjoyed being around him, and I enjoyed watching him really evolve and become a guy that really in that clubhouse a lot of people really liked. He was the team DJ the last couple of years. They're going to have to replace a DJ as well. But he became the DJ, became kind of a voice in there, and it's just kind of another personality piece that's gone. And we'll see going forward how the 2025 Astros kind of adjust. But it's clear that this is going to be a different style. This is going to be a different team than the one we envisioned coming into the season. But we will be there, chronicling it all. I'm going to talk.
Athleticing it.
I'm going to talk at some point. I'm going to talk well at some point. We'll be there watching it all, no matter who's playing right field. You can keep it with Crush City territory, and we will be able to dissect, discuss, and analyze everything about the Houston Astros. So thank you, everyone, for tuning into this emergency pod. Maybe you'll watch a lot more WGN now that you can see Kyle Tucker, but get excited. Isaac Paredes.
Orioles grand slam. Don't yell at me.
Oh, I forgot about that one.
That was a good one.
Off of Felix Bautista, too.
Yeah, that ruled.
Dana Brown went on the radio the next day and said that Kyle Tucker was going to be an Astro for life, and there was nothing anyone could do about it.
Agreed. It was so cool. I would say that too.
That worked out.
Say it now.
Yeah, that worked out well. Anyway, we'll try not to have so many comments fly back in our face. Join us next time when we will discuss the Astros' path moving forward in this very consequential winter. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.